Well, Neil Cavuto has some second thoughts about how he handled the presidential debate. I sat down in Milwaukee with Fox's senior vice president, the host of Your World here on FNC, and Cavuto Coast to Coast on Fox Business. Neil Cavuto, welcome.
Hey.
Front page of USA Today. What? Substance? You said that your goal was to be invisible during the debate. Did you succeed?
Well, I know I'm a pretty big guy, so that might be a push. But I do think my real goal here was to get it off the moderators. I mean, it's human nature to think that. But, you know, you're good at history, and we remember
all the media bashing surrounding these other debates, particularly CNBC.
Right, and it's the age we live in. I mean, I think that some of the best debates that I can remember, maybe, you know, pre-New Testament, I guess, is that they were judged by the quality of the answers, not by the sharpness of the questions or even the controversial nature of the questions.
Does that mean toning it down in a way that you wouldn't do if you're interviewing somebody on your show, where you want to kind of get in there and mix it up?
Well, I do think it's a different environment. It's not an interview. Moderating a debate is very, very different, especially when you're moderating it with a lot of candidates and there are other moderators, and it's not a one-on-one like you and I are doing right now. It's very, very different. Having said that, I'm not oblivious to the fact it's got to be entertaining, engaging, it's got to move. I mean, it can't be, C-SPAN. Nothing wrong with C-SPAN. Right. My point is you got to keep it moving, and I think these candidates, they have strong personalities, as you know. And just keep the debate going. This debate was, as advertised, tightly focused on the economy, jobs, taxes, and all that. But you did ask Ben Carson what I would call the elephant in the room question about the whole wave of media attacks on his inspiring life story and the discrepancies. Did you feel like you couldn't let the 2 hours go by that you had to get that insight? Well, I'll tell you, there's a lot on the edit room floor, and I'm very tough on myself. I would have loved to get into the University of Missouri issue. I would have loved to get into more of these issues that dominate this region. But, as things go on and candidates are, slicing and dicing each other up, we're throwing questions away left and right. We have to make some, audibles that I'm not always happy with. But one of the things I really wanted to pursue with Carson is, why isn't that germane? We get it out there and talk about it and all. But my only point with the only question I knew, because I knew there wouldn't be a chance to do 10 questions on this, is, does it hurt your brand if your brand is all about being above you? I mean, that it's not about the messenger, it's about the message. But if the messenger is tainted, which is the kind of convoluted way I was trying to get it across. He got it. He knew what you were saying. And who knows? I mean, if it was a one-on-one like this, how you may not know, there'd be time to pursue that and all. But there are other candidates, 7 others up there. There are a host of other issues. There are other moderators. So you're always damning yourself. Donald Trump was relatively restrained, and he did not try to break in. I saw you in the spin room with him after the debate here in Milwaukee, and he said that was by design. It was very interesting, and not to bore you with that, there were a couple of points in the debate, all the candidates trying to get your attention. If you notice during the commercial breaks, they'd all come up, and a common refrain they'd have is like, hey, they're all saying, I need more time. What about me? What about me? And the irony was, sometimes it would come from candidates who had more than enough time. But the one thing I do immediately take away from this debate is Trump holding back. Now, he got a zinger out on Carly, like, what's she interrupting for? Yes, late in the game. But it was weird, because he didn't do it nearly to the degree he did in prior debates. I don't want to take the leap to say presidential, but he was definitely toning himself down a little bit and trying to save himself. There was about 10, maybe 15 minutes where it seems like the candidates were busting past the time limits, where they were interrupting, where I warned you if it was going to veer out of control. Were you nervous at all, or did you decide to kind of let that go for a while? Well, we had the 90-second rule, which is 30 seconds longer than a typical response, and the 60-second response. What we didn't calculate was that so many would want to be diving in on that 60-second response. And the rule of thumb was that if I am talking about Donald Trump and I'm Jeb Bush, then obviously Trump can respond in 60 seconds to what was ever said. What we didn't calculate is that every other person up there would also want to get in. Right. You try to police that. You try not to be a jerk about it. You have the bell. Invariably, they ignore the bell. Even when given more time, they'll take it and then some. Certain things in retrospect, I wish if I could go back on, I'd like to tighten that up. We all wanted to tighten up. A lot of questions went by the wayside. We're frantically talking amongst ourselves, right? This has to go, and it kills you because you've crafted what you think are great questions, and this isn't going to see the light of air now. This ISIS question isn't going to see the light of air. Right. And there'll be, I noticed many sites today are saying, oh, they didn't get into this issue, or they didn't get, and it's fair game. It's
2 hours, 8 people, you can't get to everything. The audience doesn't know all the things you couldn't get to, but it certainly was a substantive outing. Neil Cavuto, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.